Okay, greetings, everybody. It's 3 o'clock, and so we're going to get started here this morning. My name is Andrew Magles, and I am the director at Westlake Porter Public Library in Westlake, Ohio, which is just a little suburb outside of Cleveland. I'm also new to the LSDA, the Library Services for Dementia and Alzheimer's. I've agreed to be the chair of the committee when Alan's term is over. And so I do want to thank Alan Kleiman for leading the group. And when his term is over, I'll be taking over for that. I also want to thank Megan Mott for all of her work to make this happen and pull everybody together, get our speakers here today. I do want to mention the Library Services for Dementia and Alzheimer's is it's an interest group, an ALA interest group with the purpose to support librarians who serve patrons with Alzheimer's or other dementia and their care partners by providing a forum for discussion and networking. So we do meet once a month via Zoom. It's the fourth Monday of the month, and usually we meet at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and our meetings generally are about an hour. We don't like to go over that to be respectful of people's times. So if that's something that you're interested in, you want to pursue to join our group, we'd love to have you. Also, another opportunity is if anybody's going to ALA in Philadelphia this summer on Sunday, June 29th, LSDA will be hosting a meeting at 4 o'clock. I actually don't have the room that's going to be in, but you should be able to go to our website, or we can push that information out after this event. So we always have a nice time there at ALA meeting up in person. We will also be at the ABOS and PLA conferences as they come up. I believe ABOS is in St. Louis next year, and PLA, I think, is in Minneapolis. So those are all opportunities to get involved with the LSDA group. So we're very excited about today to have some panelists with us who applied for and won a grant for the Riedner Award and are doing some great things in their libraries around Alzheimer's and dementia. And so with that, we're going to let our panelists talk for about 5 to 7 minutes about their project to kind of inform you. Anybody who has any questions can put them in the chat, and I can relay those, or Megan will help us with that, and we'll get your questions answered as well. So with that, I'm going to, since I'll just kind of go in my screen, looking up to the left, and we'll have John Pache with Cleveland Heights. And John, if you can lead us off and tell us about your project, that'd be great.
Sure. As was just stated, my name is John Pache. I work at the Cleveland Heights University Public Library in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And we have been working in this space for at least 2 years now. We've started a yearly dementia week. I'll get it out right eventually, which led us to discover this group called Day by Day, and they are down in outside of Columbus. And it started by a young woman who, used to take her violin into nursing homes and would see the power of music. So she started looking into what could be done on a longer term basis for people with memory issues. And when she started looking into it, the research is very robust on the fact that the center of our brain that remembers music and musical memory just never kind of goes away. So using that, she started to develop a program implementing music to engage people with memory disorder and people with diagnosis. So then COVID hit, and they couldn't do this as well. So she partnered with the silent disco people, who mostly provide headphones and the technology for raves and silent parties and things like this. And I can show you what she developed. I will try to share my screen here. Bing, bang, boom. So as it says here, we did get the grant for this in 2024, and it purchased 2 sets of this memory disco. And what it comes with are 6 headsets, which have 3 different channels. So you could have 3 different programs going at once. But we try to keep it on one, playlist. It also comes with the transmitter maracas, which are super noisy when you're moving them around. Those are like shakers that they use in story times and things. And backpack and chargers and other things that go with it. But also they've developed whole probably about 100 playlists for different times of the day. And they market this mainly to nursing homes, memory care units and things like that. So that there'd be like mealtime, people can be wearing these during the mealtime if they get agitated. And it's amazing. We did one, we've done several, but the one that they demoed, people came in and a couple of the people who came in were very non-responsive. And as soon as the music started, they were kind of just sitting and staring off into the distance, but as soon as the music started, people just returned to the present and immediately started singing, clapping. A couple of people got up and started dancing, and it was quite a moving experience for the people who were involved in it. And so we have, as I said, this Dementia Week that this year is May 12th through the 25th, and we're going to do a memory disco then. We had one early in this month. Or last month. We have one this month coming up on the 24th, and then in May on the 15th. So far, they haven't been super well attended. We are partnering with Case Western Reserve Nursing School to get some help to run the discos. So these are nursing students who are working with people with this diagnosis, and they've been coming in and assisting us with running the program, because it doesn't really fall to my forte to get up and dance and sing and shake my maraca. It's just not the kind of service I like to provide, but or I'm comfortable doing. So it's good to have the help. And but our ultimate goal is our outreach librarian is hoping to partner with the 3 nursing homes in our area and senior care, which all have memory units or memory care. I guess units is the best term. And we're hoping to partner with them, bring this into the facility and really engage the population who lives where they live. And, hopefully caregivers or other people can be there as well. So that's the ultimate goal for this. Our director would love to circulate these, but the price point is a little expensive, and there's quite a bit of moving parts with each bag. So it would be a circulation nightmare to figure out how to circulate these, get them back, clean them, make sure everything is tip-top shape. So, but that's not an impossible task, and we are looking to do it. So, that's where we have, and the grant paid for the 2 sets. So we're hoping in this year to get them into the facilities, and also to get them into, have people come to the library. So I see that there's a question, how much did they cost? The 2 sets were just about, I think the library picked up 800, but they were about 6,000. So they're about $3,000 a piece. They're not cheap. And part of the reason is you're buying into the day-by-day group, which is a couple $100, but the equipment is not inexpensive. The headphones are really state-of-the-art, and the transmitter and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's made for outdoor raves, party buses, cruises. So how many sets do we want? Well, ideally, the director wanted 1 set at each branch. We only have 4 branches. So, library math, that's $1 million. But I don't know exactly, so it's kind of a we're on pause mainly for the logistics of it and to see if we can get the program moving. Because if we really want to get into the community more than have the community come to us. So that's just kind of where we're planning future programming. So that's my little spiel, and it was really great to get the grant because it did facilitate this program and allow us to expand into the community.
I see some other questions and some information, but maybe we'll hold off on that and go to our next panelist and then kind of circle back to that question.
Yep, sounds great. Thank you, Megan. I am going to go ahead and next on my list, we have Janet Boudet from the Roddenberry Memorial Library in Cairo, Georgia.
Janet, I think you're still muted.
Sorry about that. All right. Our library is in a small rural county library in the bottom of the southwest corner of Georgia. We have approximately 26,000 people. We are one branch, one main library, no branches. And at the time that this grant was available, we had several patrons with dementia that used the library. During this time, our library had been active partners with the University of Georgia and its Archway Partnership Program. Since 2011, Archway was formed to address the needs in communities and match them with educational resources at UGA. When our community was partnered with them, healthcare and dementia was an area that our community highlighted as a need and wanted to address. Our community had the opportunity to partner with the University of Georgia's College of Public Health's Cognitive Aging Research and Education Center, CARE, to address Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. This campus center is a clinical research and outreach space to deliver education on dementia risk reduction, conduct research, and provide planning and support for people with dementia and their care partners. During the months of planning and collaborating on how to address the needs of the current and future dementia patients in our community, it was identified that we needed a resource center. Well, who better than a library to be a resource center? And then the Riedner Grant was announced and we applied. The timing was perfect. It was meant to be. We received the grant and we created a memory corner. We had several dementia patients come in, and sometimes they were with their loved ones, sometimes they weren't, and they would tend to wander, and we would keep an eye on them as best we could. But we liked the idea of, we had a small space in the back of the library that was not utilized. So we decided we would create a memory corner. We had the space, we already had a nice desk and bookcase back in there. So we placed some books, some activity kits, fidget quilts and puzzles and different things. And we installed 2 iPads that the University of Georgia loaded some of their programs and videos for caregivers on. And they created a 49-page assessment guide for people that were, thought they might have a loved one with dementia, but weren't sure and how to, provide care. So we had brochures and things back there in the room. It's a lovely little nook, nice out of the way. We felt like it's a great safe spot, for anybody that, might be tend to wander. And but anyhow, the assessment guide, we used some of our funds to pay for the printing because they, 49 pages, and we handed them out to all the doctor's offices and any, home caregivers and here in the library. And we also conducted some sessions on taking this and doing an assessment yourself with the community. We then, after our little memory corner was created, we partnered with our local assisted living facility, and the director began coming here once a month to meet in our corner for caregiver support. We found out that the caregivers came, but they didn't bring their loved ones. And so the dementia patrons that had been coming to the library had been since placed in a facility. But the caregiver group outgrew the corner, and then they had to move into a meeting room. So it's good news and not so good news, because now, you know, the corner is a little bit more vacant. So we did say, you know, it is safe, but the out of the way location is a deterrent. Patrons tend to want to use that area to study, and we have to push them out and say, no, this has a purpose. It's for, you know, our dementia patients. We have learned too that we need to heavily market on an ongoing basis. So even though we got the grant 2 years ago, you know, Archway's gone now, and we're on our own to publicize, and you know, so we do realize that we need to. It's now time to get those assessment guides back out to all the doctors' offices, and you know, keep an ongoing, you know, flow of information. But anyhow, I'm just so proud of the initiative, and that this grant occurred at this time, that we could make this memory corner. And it's taken a while working with the assisted living facility and getting the word out to get people to come in, but it is taking off. You know, things take a while to get word out and all, but anyhow, it's unique to our area, and we're really proud of it. And I'm so thankful that we were able to receive the grant money to make that happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Janet. And again, save your questions. We'll be able to address all the questions, all our panelists, when we get to the end. Next up, we have Andrea Boothby Rice, who is at Washington College in Chesterton, Maryland. So thank you for being here, Andrea.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and good afternoon, everybody. So I am at Washington College, which is neither in Washington State nor Washington, D.C. It's on the eastern shore of Maryland. But I actually received this grant when I was working at the Queen Anne's County Public Library System, which is just the county over from where I'm at. So a public library system. So I'm really grateful to be here and to share this, you know, what we were able to do when I was there. And forgive me if some of the details are not 100% accurate. I'm in a different type of institution now. But what we did with the grant, we held creative aging cafes and continued to develop our adult storytime on wheel kits, as well as our rapid reads collections. And I'll talk a little bit more about what was included with that. But the concept we had was to address the sort of diverse challenges of aging adults, particularly those with neurodegenerative diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. And then additionally, their caregivers in that what their caregivers face in accessing the library and making connections, both socially and with the ideas that are represented in the materials that libraries provide. So these programs were developed to create in-person and learnable materials that allowed the patrons and their care people to continue using the libraries that met their individual needs and provided them with an engaging experience, which we know helps address the effects of the cognitive challenges that are both related to effects of these diseases, as well as just the general effects of isolation. So for some context, Queen Anne's County is a semi-rural county on the eastern shore of Maryland. I was at one of the only 2 locations in the county. So the county in total serves about 49,000 people, of which about 14,000 are identified as 60 years old above. And we also have about a 10% population of people who identify as having some type of disability. We also feel the effects of being in a fairly rural area, which, you know, feel those aging effects more acutely. And so at my branch, I was the only public services librarian that was there. So I addressed sort of all the needs of all the, you know, adults through programming and collection material. And so a few years into my role, I was addressing and trying to address the gaps in both collections and programming that I was seeing. One of those was the aging population, where we weren't addressing the subpopulations within the adults the same way that we do with children. So with the limited budget, we started off by sort of shifting some of the adult collection to create some like easy read collections, rapid read collections is what we called it, that would help not only adults with cognitive impairment, but also maybe new readers. As with any small rural library, we're trying to do as much as we could with and affect as many people as we can with the materials and the programs that we were creating. So when I was thinking about the various groups that I felt we needed to address, all the people with Alzheimer's and dementia and their caregivers were sort of a naturally underrepresented group that we weren't seeing, particularly in the rural community where we don't have things like public transportation, and it's more difficult to get to the library. So through the grant and with the assistance of another small grant from Maryland Library Citizen Group, we created the Adult Storytime on Wheels, which are themed backpacks filled with a variety type of books, including short stories, poetry, picture books, Alzheimer appropriate games and sensory materials. So in addition, we also worked with a local chapter of the Alzheimer's Association to make sure that we were in line with sort of best practices. And we connected with our Department of Aging, the local assisted living and memory care facilities. What this grant ultimately supported was also the creative aging cafes. So these cafes are marketed and designed for people with various stages of dementia and Alzheimer's and their caregivers to be in a supportive space. They're provided with some type of informational material, so that whether it's about healthy habits or support services that they can connect with, and also to have a creative theme. So for example, the first one we held had a folk musician come, who sang, all these great Americana songs, but there was a hands-on component to it. And we wanted to make sure it wasn't just sit and receive, but interactive, to sort of engage those, neurotransmitters that they need to, as well as socialize. And so at this one, he handed out instruments right there, and they got to play and sing along. And it was all songs, from their childhood. It was really wonderful when everyone sort of started singing some like Woody Guthrie songs or whatever it was. And at the same time, we also had these kits available for them to check out. So they didn't actually have to go into the library space to be able to check them out. Because also know there's sort of, if you're working with, as a caregiver, you might have sort of a time frame of when people are feeling good and when they want to get the heck out of Dodge. So those kits were right there, the rapid reads and the other specialized collections that we developed were there for them to check out. So they didn't have to go into and navigate the library. I left shortly after that first one for my new position, but what I do know is that we had other cafes lined up. So for a range of hands-on experiences, there was flower arranging, there was a hands-on painting class, and from what I could gather and what I've heard, they were incredibly popular. And similarly, the feedback we received from the kits was wonderful. The kits themselves were themed, so themed along like caregiver, woodworker. We're in a very farm-heavy area, so farm. So things that we could connect with, maybe that would spark some, form some sort of connection with the people who would be using them. And we heard anecdotally a lot of really wonderful stories from the caregivers that it cultivated a really positive reaction from the people that they were using them. And then the last sort of component that came from this grant was the training component. So we saw it as like multimodal. You had this in person, you had these collections that they could take away, and then the staff training to ensure that we were a dementia-friendly staff. And so that ongoing programs, ongoing collection development, even when there's not a really wonderful grant attached to it, had this population in their mind, so we could continue and going beyond to meet the needs of these folks. So yeah, and it sounds like these things are still existing, which is wonderful. And then I also wanted to make a quick plug. If you are doing these types of programs, don't forget your adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, because they tend to also overlap and they can have Alzheimer's and dementia too. So just to remember that they are also people you should be thinking about.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrea. I appreciate that. We have one more panelist today to hear from before we start addressing some of the questions and information in the chat. So our next speaker is Heidi Ray from the Alpha Park Public Library in Bartonville, Illinois. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's been very interesting so far. So thank you to everybody. I do have a PowerPoint. Let me see. What do I need to do to share?
Yeah, let me make you co-host here. I thought, let's see,
Okay.
Heidi. Just make sure. You have co-host permission, so you should be able to share.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, there it is. Okay. Okay. Hopefully this is working. Everybody can see it. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, so we were able to get the grant, the Riedner Grant, back in 2022. We did get the $2,500. And so what we wanted to do was create a space within the library that would house all the information that somebody that was maybe a caregiver or wanted to kind of study up on what was happening, and just a safe place where they could come in and sit down and work on something, or read something, or find some information, just a general place that they could come into. And for our main focus, we started out looking at the Alzheimer's and dementia as a whole, and then the caregiver. And part of our grant was that we would also form a support group. So we wanted to create a space, form a support group, and our main focus at the beginning was just Alzheimer's and dementia. So as we started to look at the different types of items that we could purchase, we wanted to get toys, and we wanted to get tools, we wanted videos and books, and whatever information we could get out there. So in doing so, it gravitated towards other things that people that might be interested in Alzheimer's and dementia also worked into those who have suffered from a stroke, or maybe are there on the spectrum, or had some kind of a brain trauma. So as we were looking at these different things, we're realizing that we're really crossing into other areas. So it then became more of a brain center, and it kind of opened that up to a lot of options for just about anybody. And what we hadn't expected was that it would become popular with teachers and parents. We were really focused on the caregiver, and it just kind of took off on its own, which was great. So we expanded, and we got as many items as we could with the grant funds. We put up a slat wall so that we could show everything. And it ended up being, we tried to spend some of our funds on high dollar items, because we found that some folks really wanted to try some things out before they went out and purchased them. And if anybody has had any experience with Alzheimer's or dementia, or any kind of illness, really, some of the things that happen and that work 1 week, may not work 2 months later or a month later. So the idea was that they could come in and check these things out, try them. If they worked, great. If they didn't, or when they didn't, they could bring them back. So we are in downstate Illinois. So we're about 3 hours south of Chicago, and we are a library district. So we have about 28,000 people in our district. We are close to Peoria, Illinois, which has, over 100,000 people. But we are considered rural. We have a very aging population right now, and it takes a lot to get to our library. We have people as far, a good 30-minute drive to get to our library. So we were really trying to focus on the things that would be able to help, that they could come and get, or they could interlibrary loan. And also we wanted to be able to have things available for our community, which is an aging population. So we were really trying to create the space and make it welcoming for anybody in the area, but also have some items that they would be able to take home with them. So what we ended up putting in our collection is we tried to focus on the caregiver, the teacher, and the parent, and get books and videos, any kind of information that we can find. And this changes a lot as things, new pamphlets come out, new information comes out. So we try to keep up on all of those from different organizations like the Alzheimer's Association, anything that we can find that we think will be helpful. Any programs that we do, we promote that in that area. Lots of tools and lots of games. And we took a couple of chairs and some tables and created this nice little space. I think I mentioned we got the slat wall so that we could hang everything and got it all on display. And then for everybody else, because one of the things that we found has been super popular is that everybody of any age gravitate towards that, because we also put out puzzle sheets every day. We have puzzle sheets that people can pick up and take home with them. And we have had so many people stop and tell us that they really enjoy, it might just be a simple Sudoku page or a seek and find page, but it's that one thing that they come in for every day. They take it home, they do their puzzle, and they come back the next day and find more. And they are not diagnosed with anything at this time, but they feel like that is something they can do to keep their brain healthy. So the Brain Center has really morphed into this. Originally, let's help, the people that we know that have diagnoses that we can help them with, but now it's morphed into everybody uses it. So it has really become a gem in our library. We're really proud of it, and the people really enjoy it. Some of the other things that you'll find in our library for the Brain Center are puzzles, whether it is like a game kind of puzzle or puzzle pieces. We have found that a lot of the folks like the puzzles that are bigger pieces because they're easier to handle and they're smaller as far as how many are in there. So it's like we have some that are 36 pieces and they're very large. So for some folks, that is just exactly the right size, the right amount that they need to actually enjoy it. And another part of our library, we offer a puzzle area where it is bring a puzzle, take a puzzle. You don't have to check them out. And that has been huge. So we also let them know that there are smaller puzzles for those that need them with the bigger pieces. But yeah, there's lots of different games and things out there that we can get. Reminiscing games, which is really good. If you're trying to communicate with somebody that has dementia or has had some kind of an issue that it's difficult for them to remember or talk. And it's great for families who, I don't know how to talk to grandpa anymore. It's just not the same. So this is kind of a way that they can take this home for the weekend and try it and just have a nice chat with grandpa. And then there's matching games and fitness cards, different things that you can use to improve your focus or your memory. And one of the most fun things we did was we bought robotic pets. So if you're familiar with the idea of holding a baby doll, because that reminds you of holding a baby, these are the same idea. They look like real pets, but and they look like a stuffed animal too, but they come with a brush or something that you can either pet them or brush them. And they have a battery and they'll bark or they'll meow and they'll move, shake their tail or move their head. And I believe the cat even rolls over. So those have been a lot of fun because it kind of gives them that feeling of having a pet, even if, they can't anymore. And the fidget toys and the blankets and the aprons, those have been huge. Those have been very popular, especially for the times when, they just want to move. They just want something. And this is just a quick example of some of the things that we have. So the story cues to help tell stories. This is the picture of the cat, the robotic cat. So if you've never seen one, they are very fun. They're very interesting, and it gets people talking. It's a great icebreaker. And of course, at the time we bought these, they were about $125. So that is something that a lot of people just would not purchase on their own. And we have 3. So we want to make sure that, this is something you can try. And then of course, social games or social skills, board games, those are always fun for any age. And they get used quite a bit. So part of our grant was we had programming associated with this. And so we'll do different programs throughout the year. And we invite speakers in. We can do some ourselves. And then we finally got started having our very own support group with the Alzheimer's Association. So I volunteered to go through the training. And so I am trained to run a support group. I have a co-sponsor. So together we meet once a month. And this has been going on for, gosh, we finally just got it up and running. So it's not quite been a year yet. We've had this going. And because of our aging population, we've had a lot of interest in it. And we're not the only group in the area. So, it just shows us that it's a necessary thing. And working with the Alzheimer's Association has been great because they are able to do different seminars and provide more for our people as they request it. So they have been a great group. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We do allow these to circulate, except for the high ticket items. Of course, libraries, we have to be careful. And as far as marketing all of this, we try to put something out every so many months just to remind people that it's here, whether it's in our program guide or we leave something at a doctor's office or a church. We have one assisted living place in our district, so we work with them quite a bit. Actually, we have 2 now. We have 2 now. So we can work with them and they can borrow things. So yeah, that is us in Bartonville.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And that might actually be a good segue because one of the questions was, once you have these programs, how do you market them? How do you share them? So it sounds like, Heidi, you get out to a lot of different organizations. What about everybody else?
Yeah,
John, go ahead.
I'll jump in. So the local chapter of the Alzheimer's Association was a huge help in getting the word out. Particularly the kids. I found a list of all the assisted living and memory care facilities, and I sent out there as well as the local senior centers. And especially in rural areas. I know this happens everywhere, but word of mouth was huge. And so once we, got some good positive reactions to it, the network shared it themselves.
We have partnered. We're in a kind of interesting situation because a community member came to us 3 years ago with the diagnosis, and as a force of nature, pulled together Benjamin Rose, which is a local agency on aging. They run a housing unit, they run memory care, they run all sorts of things related to aging, have a ton of programs and research. I mean, they're just great. We have 3 senior living places in our service area. So we partner with them already because of outreach. We deliver books to them. So we have a relationship with them that is easily expanded. So they're very excited about the memory discos and bringing them in. It's just a matter of staff timing and case availability. But we've also, we have Case Western Reserve, who has a whole dementia care research department. They've been very helpful. Alzheimer's Association, I can't speak highly enough of them. They're great. We've also worked with the Ohio Council on Aging, and we have a pretty robust partnership with them as well. So they're the ones who brought Dementia Friends to the library, and they've also been they have co-sponsoring a dementia-friendly film fest we're having at a local movie theater. And we've just been able to really get the word out because of these organizations promoting it through their networks and us getting some local press and our networks as well. Our Check Us Out newsletter and the website and such things like that. But having said that, I would like to add the caveat that all the planning in the world doesn't mean that, and even if you do registrations and you have 15 people registered, with this population, you have to be very patient and kind, because there are some days where people come in and they're headed towards the program and they just change their minds and they want to go look at the fish tank instead. And it's, there isn't, so success has been, we can't just count the numbers, we have to count kind of the impact as well. So if we have 2 people and they're both amazingly engaged and singing and dancing and doing all sorts of things, that's a success in our book. And because those 2 people, if it's a caregiver and patient, someone with the diagnosis, if they had 20 minutes of, stress-free kind of fun, that's incalculable. So I think that's it's something that we've, we kind of live or die by our attendance numbers, and we've had to kind of recalibrate some of that with these programs. So.
Go ahead, Janet.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I really appreciated what Heidi's done is how she's merged, morphed into a different area and added some more. Right before we did our memory corner with COVID, and it closed our center on aging, and so we don't have a senior center anymore. And so that was one of the hopes. We do have some of those the Center for Aging come and use our meeting room, and they do art classes and some chair yoga and things like that. So my board chair, her mother is in the assisted living that does our support care, and she's doing the story kits like one of you mentioned, and she comes in and makes up a story kit from our supplies, and then she goes to the assisted living, and then she does a story time for those people that are in the memory care center. And so I thought that was great, and that gives me some new ideas to make some kits for her so that she she didn't have to do it herself. But I just thank you for all the ideas, because I realize now it's time to pump some new blood into the program and get back out there.
We did have she said it's more of a comment, but marketing is key, as most folks don't look for these services until someone in their life needs them. So that can happen anytime. It's got to be continual. One of our questions is, how did grant funding affect your ability to offer this program? But then someone else also asked, once you had the funding, where did you look to buy stuff?
So I can answer a little bit of that. As far as looking where to buy stuff, I reached out to the Alzheimer's Association first. And of course, they have a website that you can go to, and they have a marketplace. And then I just started doing some research and kind of going down that rabbit hole of what worked for some people and what didn't work. And there's a lot of, if you just even Google caregiver sites, you'll come up with a ton of different caregivers for anything, pretty much. And I started just reading through some of the comments and the ideas that people were sharing there, and then I would just start Googling the word toy and a disease or an issue, and from there it just kept going. I mean, I couldn't believe all the things that are out there because I had not had to experience this yet. I did shortly after with a grandmother and a mother-in-law, so I was very pleased that I was able to know ahead of time, that I could help them with these things. But yeah, just start Googling it, start going through, even if you just go to a website like Walmart or Amazon, and just kind of look around, and you'll, if you read through like the descriptions of them, it'll kind of tell you what it's used for, and then you can start to consider other ways that it might also be used. And then a lot of times there's company or organizations that will promote these specific things for very specific reasons. So yeah, I mean, I was really taken away by how much is out there. And I'm sorry, I forgot the other question already.
How did grant funding affect your ability to offer it?
Oh, 100%. We could not have done this without the grant funding. We did not have the budget for this. It was, I mean, we used the money to buy the slat wall, the stuff that goes in this, all the hardware and the bags and yeah, I mean, if without this grant, none of this would have been possible. And I also wouldn't have learned as much as I did. So not only was it great for our community, but it was great for our staff because it helped us figure out, like I had no idea that some of this stuff existed or why it existed. So it was very educational for everybody.
I see a lot of nodding. Does anybody else want to chime in with where you purchased things?
Yeah, so I just remembered it's the backpacks kits, which I know other libraries have also done similar things. So it's not completely unique, which is good because that means we're all doing this. But there's a site called Meternally, and I can post in the chat. And so there were like these preloaded kits, and so we got some of those. But then the nice thing was like we kind of latched on to, okay, like here's the composition of these backpacks. And so then we could go off and create our own, which would help with like the cost effectiveness. And so one thing we did was purchase just some clear backpacks, and then started filling it even within our own collection. So we looked for books and materials and then sourced them from other spaces, so that they were a bit more cost effective. And oh, great. I see the comment from Alan. So that's wonderful. But yeah, that was one of the first places that we were looking for materials to address this population.
I'm sure making your own kind of helps sometimes with making it more local.
Yes. And also responding to people, because they would come in and say, oh, this is great. I wish you had this one. And then we can respond to that and, be really targeted to our community and their specific needs.
Well, one thing I would add, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. One thing that I would add is that when we started putting out the puzzle pages for just anybody to pick up, that is something that you can do with little to no money. We started with, I just bought some puzzle books and just made some copies. And then we have an ongoing bookstore and we would get donations. And whenever I would see one of those, I would just use those and I would just start tearing out the pages so that they would get used. And I mean, that was just a super easy way to keep up with, instead of keeping buying those books or keeping making those copies, you just get those books. And at some point we had a bunch of people who just started donating them to us. So it's, little things like that that I wouldn't have thought of, but is a super easy way to get started cheaply.
Yeah, and I'd like to piggyback on the puzzle. We put out a puzzle for the community a couple months ago, and you would be amazed at how many people start donating puzzles. And we have so many puzzles, we don't know what to do with them all. And they started to do a puzzle swap, and it's become this whole program unto itself. But it all started with just putting like a 300-piece puzzle out for the patrons to work on. And it's a great passive program. With our program, we found the product, the memory disco headsets, and then our director was like, let's buy a bunch of them, and we said, well, let's see if we can find money first, and kind of slowed it down a little bit so that we could see if it was going to actually work before we spent the money, and that really allowed us, the grant was indispensable in allowing us to, as Heidi said, kind of play around with stuff that isn't necessarily available to the public. And I mean, a family of 3 wouldn't buy a whole kit just for their grandparent who's coming over for Thanksgiving. But the idea might be that they might check out a kit to use over Thanksgiving. So that's where we're hoping to go to. So, we'll see how it goes. But it was indispensable for us to learn it and to try it and to try to get how it can be used in the public. So.
I was also going to mention the local like quilting groups and different things that my mom was part of one, and they made fidget quilts for different people, and when she was in the Alzheimer's Association with my stepfather, and that was one of the activities that they did so that they could hand out to different families. So sometimes you don't have, depending on the product, that you could get local support, in different groups to help, furnish those and make those items.
And kind of, I'm going to combine a couple questions that came in. One was, now that you got the grant, are you able to, is your board allocated funding to it on a ongoing basis? But also, what sort of challenges have you had with circulating things? I feel like funding and challenges goes together.
We don't have any problems circulating the books. Our activity kits and stuff, we don't circulate them, they're just in-house. But I like that Heidi does circulate them, and now that it's been a couple of years, I may go ahead and try that and get some, some more things like that could be circulated and expand upon it. So that was really helpful. I can't remember what the other question was. Oh, about the board giving funding. Well, we're a small library too, and tight funding and stuff. So, we do keep up the books and to keep that up, but we really haven't had any more influx of funds to that area.
We're fortunate because we've had a lot of people using our brain center that the board has allowed us to, spend some money on and keeping it up. So it really hasn't taken a whole lot of money. I mean, we just try to keep up with the newest books, the newest, basically information we can get pretty much for free from different organizations. But the time that it takes for us to, keep up with it, that's, they welcome that. We definitely want to keep that up. The toys and things like that, we have been able to keep those up, and that is probably one of the biggest challenges we have is, if you've ever circulated games at all, you're going to be missing pieces and things will break, and but that's just part of doing business. So we do what we can to keep them going, and then if we need to take them out, then we'll investigate, how was this really circulating well, is this something that we should buy a new copy with? And luckily this library has been able to keep that up. The other thing that we had trouble with is the robotic animals. We had those out and up on a shelf, and of course they were a great way to get people talking and interested, but the kids just absolutely went nuts over them. So we did eventually put them in behind the desk, and we put out a nice little card that says what they are, and they can bring the card up to check those out. So I hated to do that because they were such a good talking piece, but you can only do so many crying fits and then you have to make a decision. So, but I do pull those out whenever I have a program or something so that people can get used to them and see what they are.
I was just saying, because I'm not at that library anymore, I can't really speak to the current challenges or successes of the program, but when thinking about the implementation, funding is obviously, always in the back of our minds. We're always thinking, this is the budget this year. Will there be funding for this next year? And so we tried to build in some low-cost ways to keep that momentum going forward. So having the kits and being able to replace it with either existing collections or low-cost alternatives, and then using those to then host further creative aging programs where maybe we didn't bring in a performer, but we still used it as a way to cultivate social connection and create a safe and inviting environment for these people and their caregivers.
Yeah, I found that crying fits work really well, and it got us a small budget for the dementia program. And by small budget, I mean $5,000. So that'll cover pretty much Dementia Week. We get a lot of that programming for free. It's usually 2 programs a day for a week and a Saturday performance of some sort. So that money, if it's not spent that week, then becomes just money for this sort of programming. And so it's kind of nice if we can keep things in budget, then we can buy some new thing every year. So it's been, we've been very lucky to have them.
We have a few minutes left. Andrew, I've totally gone off of our planned questions. So is there anything you want to throw in before we end?
No, I thought those were excellent, excellent questions and great responses. Definitely want to thank our panelists for taking time out of their days to share this with everyone. I also want to mention, I probably would have been wise to mention this at the beginning, but just a nod to the grant itself and the Stephen Riedner Grant. As the panelists mentioned, it's a $2,500 grant, and that it focuses on inclusion, staff dementia awareness training, person-centered focus, literacy activities that promote use of books and reading, academic research, and developing partnerships with local organizations. In order to be eligible for this grant, you do not need to be a member of ALA. Anyone can apply regardless of nationality, and projects that have already been implemented are not eligible. So those are just some things to keep in mind for future folks who might be seeing these wonderful things and thinking, oh, I'd like to do a grant as well. The grant was created in honor of Stephen Riedner by his wife, Mary Beth Riedner, who I should mention is a winner of the Margaret Monroe Library Adult Services Award for her advocacy work on this. Mary Beth's been doing this for a very long time. It is a big part of our interest group. And if you join our group, you can hear more from Mary Beth as well. She did send me a message. She couldn't be on the program today, but wanted to make sure to say congratulations to all of you for your efforts in this award and what you've been able to implement with the grant. So we'd like to thank you for that as well. And that is all that I have, Megan. We're clocking in right here about 4 o'clock. And so that's perfect timing. This has been recorded so we can make it available and share it out to maybe those who couldn't make it before. But again, we hope to see everybody in Philadelphia and this summer, St. Louis this next spring, and PLA as well. So with that, I think we'll go. And Megan, anything else, or we're ready to sign off?
Nope, that's good. If any of you want to, so the chat is not going to everyone. There are some questions that were unanswered. So if our panelists want to, I know Heidi, you had your email address, but if anyone else wants to share theirs, there may be people who have follow-up questions for you, but you'll have to say it. Is that okay?
Yeah. Sure. So my email is A and my last name, Boothby Rice, at washcoll, WASHCOLL.edu.
My email is jboudet, BOUDET, at rmlibrary.org.
It's a good one, John. And that's it for me. Thanks to everybody for coming, and thanks to you four panelists for doing this, for having the interest, and for sharing with everybody else, because it can be really hard to get started working with a population that you know is out there and that you know you want to serve, that you know that they're your community members, but where to begin. And so you've given us all a good spot.
Indeed. Thank you, everybody, and have a lovely rest of your afternoon.
Yeah, thank you too.